I am Kelly Klein, the pretty badass from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I used to wrestle under the name Mary Elizabeth Monroe, and it was, still me as a big part of my personality, and I kind of evolved through wrestling with just kind of my love of the sport and love of just positivity and just wanting to have fun and compete. So, that was just where I was really embracing that part of my personality. I wanted for a while to explore more the side of me that is more aggressive and intense and competitive. And I also wanted to be able to wrestle under my real name. I felt like, particularly as I grew as a wrestler and an athlete, my style evolved in a way that was more aggressive. I was feeling comfortable there, and I didn't feel like Mary Elizabeth Monroe fit that anymore. I felt more at home being myself, as far as using my real name, and that was something that I felt just fit better. So I had the opportunity when I started working for Ring of Honor to kind of have that sort of rebirth, where I could make that switch, and it was just a good opportunity to do that. And I knew that if I started going forward and getting to take advantage of opportunities like Ring of Honor, I wasn't really going to have another good opportunity to make that change. So I got into professional wrestling in a way, I don't know, in a way on accident, but in a way maybe it was kind of kismet. I grew up as an athlete. I was always competitive. I always enjoyed a lot of physical activities. I also grew up in theater and entertainment. I trained in a lot of styles of dance. I trained in music. I studied acting. So through high school in particular, I was always being forced to choose, in particular, between softball and theater. And I loved softball. I was a pitcher. I took private lessons in pitching. I went to speed seminars. I went to a hitting coach. It was actually I was the only female that he ever coached in hitting. So it was like, it was kind of I was decent at it. I was kind of putting a lot into it, but I also was part of University of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music's preparatory department, where I was taking elevated theater, dance, and music and voice classes and things like that. So when I was just after high school, I was singing in a band in Cincinnati, and one of my coworkers at a restaurant I worked at invited me to see his wrestling show in return for me asking everybody I worked with to come see my band. So I said, okay, what the heck, I'll go. I didn't even know that there was local wrestling. And I got my guitarist and then a friend of mine to go see the show, and it was Heartland Wrestling Association. And the first time I saw the show, I never had a moment where I was like, oh, I want to come back and watch this and be a fan. It was from that very first event, I was trying to figure out how to get in the ring. How do I do that? So I was asking around and trying to get some information, which was not really easy to do. And it took a few months. I finally was able to find kind of a way to get in and start training. Eventually, I made my way to HWA, where I was able to train. And then I loved it. I just never looked back. So I got to the point where, so in Ring of Honor, already it's known for its wrestling, and it's known as being on the forefront and representing some of the best wrestling in the world. So that's already, in a way, there's some pressure there to really step it up. and I had an opportunity there, and I every day I'm working to continue to be worthy of that opportunity and to kind of keep that opportunity. So I'm always striving to be better, and that was somewhere where, you know, it's in the independent circuit, you're just always kind of working to work and to get better and to get experience, but it's all so disjointed in a lot of ways that one thing doesn't necessarily relate to the other. But this is something where I'm in one place, and I can really put my stamp on it and have that focus and just be competitive. So, you know, I have that competitive side of me that I'm really tapping into to keep moving forward and you know, stay in that position and keep going. I called it the end of the match. I'm responsible for that. That was a finishing maneuver I had been actually using for at least a year prior to my Ring of Honor tryout, maybe a little bit more. So I did have some help adapting it to make it more devastating, just as far as the specifics of how I apply the pressure. But it was something I had been doing, and I was able to keep that and kind of adapt it to what I'm doing now. And there was, I mean, it's a good maneuver, so there was no reason for me to, you know, get rid of that. But that was something I've been using, and you know, really, I get a lot of guidance and feedback, and I've got a lot of great resources there. But I'm very fortunate in that I'm able to really kind of develop my moveset and my style with what I feel really comfortable with, and I can, you know, kind of bounce ideas off of people and see what works and try different things and get you know, sometimes people have ideas for me that they'll share, and then I'll kind of work it into what I'm doing. But it's all kind of, you know, I'm able to put the whole thing together and make it my own. I'm training in boxing. I'm going to start training with a Muay Thai coach. So you'll see probably more and more of that. Right now, I've had, it's kind of funny, like when I really feel good about what I'm doing when I have people who like study jiu-jitsu who ask me like, hey, do you do jiu-jitsu? Because they can see that the things that I'm doing, they can see that it's, you know, legitimate, and I know what I'm doing. So while I don't formally study jiu-jitsu, the influences that I use, you know, it's nice to know that people who know what they're talking about are seeing it, and, you know, acknowledging that what I'm doing and what I'm choosing to do, I'm making sure that I do it right. Well, I definitely short term, I'm loving where I am with Women of Honor, and it's we've made it through our first year and have been really building some traction and momentum. So I really want to be a part of building Women of Honor to where it is just a stable kind of thing. So I really want to see Women of Honor build and grow. And I also want to, because I do love wrestling, I love everything about wrestling. So I'm trying to learn more about other aspects of it. So I can learn about writing and learn about just the booking and the business side, and you know, maybe learn more about commentary and other aspects where when I'm not regularly active in the ring, I can still be very active within wrestling and do a lot with that. Really, some of the women that I would love to get in the ring with are are like Allison Danger and Sarah Del Rey and some of the original Women of Honor. So it's kind of, Allison Danger isn't active in the ring anymore. So, there are some things where I'm like, man, I wish, I would have had the opportunity to do that. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I never really have a really great answer, because, and part of the reason now is there are so many really amazing women out there. And that's even just limiting myself to female opponents. But I really always just want to work with people who would make me better. I'm a little bit like I've trained with Les Thatcher, and he tells stories sometimes about several years ago when he was running training, and he would get in the ring with the guys, and he'll get in the ring a little bit, but not as much as he used to. So I'm a little jealous of stuff like that, where some of these really talented wrestlers that I could learn so much from, that I've missed the opportunity. But there are a lot of really talented people now. So to me, it's always, who can I get in there and who can I learn from? So that's, I'll be really candid about that. Even, it's that the year thing doesn't really matter in a lot of ways, because technically, if we're just looking by dates, I've been in wrestling for like 10 years. But if you compare the hours training, the hours working, the level and quality of training and matches from person to person, it's going to vary greatly. So for me, I feel like I got some training when I started, and then I kind of was sort of, I don't know, like floating. I was trying to learn where I could, but I didn't have a regular training facility for a long time, and with a lot of different things in life that I had going on, there were times where I was not as active in wrestling. I wasn't always training full time. I wasn't always wrestling as often and full time. So that's just a really misleading way to look at it. There are some women who have technically been in the business for fewer years than I have, who I feel surpassed me at one point. Now, that doesn't mean I haven't caught up to them, because I worked really hard to do that. But on the other hand, there are some women who have been in the business much longer than me. And this isn't just women. This goes, with the men as well. There are people who've been in the business much longer than I have, but they have not had the amount and the quality of training and experience that I've had. So while maybe they've been around longer, that they may not know more than me. So that's just, I don't know. It's like a really tricky area where I have respect for people who have come before me, but that doesn't always mean that they're the ones in every case that have the most experience. So to me, there are people who I wouldn't go up to some of these women and be like, well, I've been in the business longer than you have, so I'm in charge of this, or I know more than you, because I know it's just not always the case. It's just so drastically varies for so many different reasons between every person. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever feel like a vet. So it's kind of the fact that I am in a position that, while it's not luck in that I trained hard and I worked hard and I went and I did the tryout and I kicked butt at the tryout. So it's not like it just fell into my lap. I had to work for it. But at the same time, I'm the one that got that position. And that doesn't mean that I'm the only person in the world that could have filled that position. It's just the way the circumstances were that I was the one that got it, and gets to be there. And so that's why I say, like, I'm working all the time to keep that, because I do realize that means something. And I think that that's also why we're doing something that's really great for women's wrestling. And I know when I was first starting out, and I remember when they started the Knockouts division, and I remember when Wrestlicious, as short-lived as it was, that stuff was happening. And when you're trying to look to the future and you're training for hopefully future opportunities, you're paying attention to what's happening, and you're seeing, what's happening with, like if I was watching like the TNA knockouts, or if I was watching the women on Ring of Honor when they had matches with Allison Danger and Sarah Del Rey, and you're paying attention to, okay, what's WWE doing with their women? What are the opportunities that are available? So when something like this Women of Honor thing starts up, it's just showing all these other women that, okay, there's something out there, and there's more out there, and it's growing and it's building, and these are other possible avenues. So yeah, if they're serious and they're working for something, then they are gonna pay attention and see what's going on, and then what's there and how do I get there.
For those who have not either seen you perform, have for whatever reason not caught Ring of Honor, or have seen some of your shame on
Silly.
The ones that haven't seen your work on YouTube, because you have a plethora of matches out there.
I do. Did you see what Colby Carino said today? Is that what you said, plethora?
No.
Oh, he said he was thanking Bob Evans for helping in helping him throughout his career, and he used the word plethora, and I asked him if Bob taught him that word, so I wondered if you had seen that, had caught that.
A vast resource of interesting but useless tidbits.
You're just a cornucopia of vocabulary, are you?
That's right. Look at you. If there's one thing wrestling has taught me over the years, is just random words like that. Listen to Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura. They did it. Mm-hmm. And Monsoon.
Yeah, yeah. You could go on. We could go on and on.
So for those, you got a slew of matches out there. But if for the off chance that someone watching this on the Women's Pro Wrestling Network, quick plug for me, if they needed to hear the description of who Pretty Badass Kelly Klein is, what she's about, describe her to them.
Okay, well, if Pretty Badass isn't clear enough, I'm here to do my best, and I'm here to bring out your best. So if you get in the ring across from me, I'm going to give you all I've got. Some people think that makes me a bully. I think that shows that I respect you, I respect myself, and I respect wrestling enough to never stop until I win.
Yes, now we're going to go into, since you brought it up now, I have to ask, or I have to mention that. Did I not see you continue past the point of the bell on occasions in the Ring of Honor? I mean, I know that you're a hard-working woman. You are, like I said earlier, you're a juggernaut in the ring. But sometimes it seems like you may push it a little hard.
Everyone who gets in the ring with me knows what they're getting into. And if you've ever heard the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I've made every single one of them stronger.
Klein, it has been a pleasure.
Thank you. mean, I've done, at least at some point, I've tried just about everything. I mean, if we want to, just for like fun little known facts, I used to compete in horseback riding for a few years. So I got to do that. It was something where when I got to high school, the time and money made it difficult, and I needed, I wanted to be able to focus on school. So I was always kind of having to choose, what I really wanted to do. But I was very fortunate that I got an opportunity to really try just about everything. I competed in swimming when I was younger. When I was really little, I did soccer, but I didn't like it because when you're little, you're just like in a swarm kicking each other's shins. I didn't like that. But when I got older and I could watch, other people once they knew what they were doing, I was like, oh, this is a really cool sport. But by that point, I'd really geared towards softball, which I love, and I coach. I coach high school fast pitch softball sometimes, so still get to stay in that.
Now I have to ask because you brought it up. You still sing?
Yes, I do.
Band or just...
I'm not in a band. That's difficult because aside from just my crazy schedule, to be part of a band, you have to get several people who can line up their schedules, and B, it's ideal if you can get some people who really work well together. And I've had a couple of times where I've had a group of people where we've worked well together. There's a project that I recorded with some of my musical colleagues that is available online. It's pretty cool, and so I've been able to do that. And then, other than that, I've done some musical theater. I've taught private voice lessons, and I am currently finishing my vocal music education degree. I also competed with a choir at the World Choir Games. We won silver, and then I sang with the same choir on stage at Carnegie Hall, so no big deal.
So now
it's kind of cool.
All these things that you do, wrestling, I mean, I understand the appeal. It's a great source of entertainment. I do, but you are multifaceted apparently. And since you say it's online, are we going to plug this project that you have online?
You can find it. It's called 100 Different Spellings. Cut, Copy, Paste is the project. I know it's on Bandcamp, and I want to say, I can't remember if it's on iTunes or if another project by the sound engineer is maybe on iTunes. But if you look up 100 Different Spellings options and cut, copy, paste, you'll find it. I mean, you'll track it down.